Hey, everybody. Welcome back once again to the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast here on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gene Jackson. And as always, joining me are my co hosts. They're not just the co presidents of the Jeff Gaylord fan club, but they're also the only two members, Josh Briley and Richard Mulliken of P3 Radio. Guys, how are we doing?
Awesome, Gene. How about you, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. It's been a busy weekend. It's going to be a busy rest of today, but I'm excited for us to have our weekly sit down to talk about a little USWA wrestling. And before we get into that, folks, remember, please go follow the Facebook page, facebook.com/retro wrestling review. And also join our Facebook group, the USWA Universe. A lot of good stuff getting shared over there. And some of them are being kind of quiet for now, but there's quite a few USWA era wrestlers and managers and such that are a part of that group. So I'm hoping eventually maybe they'll start sharing some things. But guys like Kevin Lawler step in every now and then and answer some long standing questions that some of us have that nobody but guys like him are going to have the insight to really answer. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, I kind of get starstruck a little bit whenever I look at please welcome all these new members. And then, like you're talking about, I'll see like Kevin or Mike Samples or somebody like that. I think, I forget. I don't want to say because I don't want to say this.
Reggie B joined recently, and
Yes, I
Wolfie's
seen
in
that
there.
too. Yeah, it's just
Doug, and there's a lot of cool people in there.
It's just awesome to see.
Absolutely. So, guys, it's time to travel back to June 6th of 1993, and we're going to check out another week of USWA Championship Wrestling. And we're shaking things up this week. We don't have our usual open there at the desk. We open the show by going straight over to the ring as Mark Freer is already taking on the Shadow in our opening bout today. And I don't know about you guys, but this one, I don't know, it felt kind of odd. It felt kind of like Freer was just giving an exhibition of the moves that he knows how to do in succession. Like, it didn't even really resemble a match, did it?
Well, I thought that just because of the brain damage aspect of it, like he missed his cue and he just started early. Like they were for real going to start with, the announcement and then we'll get to the match. But he just started early, you know. But yeah, it did feel that way. No kind of logic behind it. He's just beating the hell out of this guy until he gets tired.
Yeah, I felt like we missed something, like it starts out and it's like, we got action and that's already going on in here today. I was like, good God.
I think Josh may have nailed it. I think that may be exactly what happened. It's like, all right, well, y'all be in the ring and then we'll pitch to you. And then as Dave's getting ready to open the show, they're like, this fucking guy's already wrestling over there. Like, just go to the ring. Go to the ring.
Yeah, they did the whole thing when they said, we're live. And then they started wrestling in 10, 9. It's like, shit.
Freer has blown 3 of his spots already, and we're not even live yet.
We missed all of the Shadow shine.
But dude, it was refreshing because it's like, okay, this is something different. They're trying something different, and different is good comparable to the some of the shows we've seen in the last month. So I'm all welcoming for change at this point.
Oh yeah, we do need to throw some stuff at the wall and see if anything sticks. And folks, forgive me if you hear me coughing through this episode, but I've got some bronchitis stuff going on. I'm trying to power through this without coughing too much, but I may have to mute myself every now and again. So, guys, if I get quiet, just keep talking about something. But yeah, Freer applies a DDT, and if Richard has fun with Jeff Jarrett's DDT, I don't know how he felt about this one, but he was no Jake the Snake Roberts, that's for sure.
Dude, I legit fell in the shower last Sunday before the show.
Old man problems.
No, I got out to answer my phone, and whenever I put my right foot back in, I say I fell in the shower. It was kind of like my back hit the wall, and then I just slid into the tub. But that's what that DDT reminded me of. It looked like he just fucking slid down. He had to have hurt his lower back the way he landed on it like that.
Yeah, it didn't look smooth at all. I'll say that.
we'll start referring to that as the I've fallen and I can't get up DDT. But I didn't think I could be less impressed with Mark Freer than I was last week. Turns out I was wrong. I was even less impressed this week.
Yeah, I remember
anyway.
at one point, Gene Daly, the announcers go, and that's going to be it. And the Shadow kicked out. It was like a perfect finish. You think that's it. It's like 1, 2, and the Shadow. I was getting ready to ring the bell here.
Shadow.
Yeah, you could just hear the implied "damn it" in his voice when he said that. Like,
yeah. And they got up and did one more move, and that was it.
Yeah, that
Shadow
added nothing.
Yeah.
Shadow rocking that one red knee pad. It was like his tights were too tight. He's just like, I'm just going to put it on the outside. Nobody cares.
Screw it. Yeah, the Corey's like, why did he kick out in there? That shit should have been over with. So from there, Dave and Corey let us know we're going to be seeing some much needed new faces today. Now, keep in mind, before you get too excited, the most recent new faces we had seen in the USWA were attached to the Marino brothers and Mark Freer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also keep in mind, Miss Simpson was a new face as well. So I'm willing to give this a shot. They quickly let us know the new faces will be a guy named Bo Alexander and a tag team called the Untouchables with Ronnie Lotz. Now, Lotz has been in and out of the USWA in the past. I can't say he's ever been a favorite of mine. I'll withhold judgment for now. But do you guys remember Ronnie Lotz? I imagine Josh probably does.
Sounds like a football player. Wasn't Ronnie Lotz a football player?
Lotz, L-O-T-T-Z.
Yeah, no.
I remember, I think it was the late 80s, hearing that maybe 1992. I'm 90 as well. I mean, I remember hearing that name, but I did not recognize him at all.
Okay.
So,
well, everybody will get to see what he's about here in a little bit, and we'll let you make your minds up when we get there. We also hear that Jeff Gaylord will be here today, and in the main event, Jeff Jarrett and Miss Texas will take on the Master of Terra and Brandi Wine. I wonder what Miss Texas is going to do to Brandi Wine, guys.
She gonna drink her like she done bought her.
At least that would be a variation.
Was I alone in thinking the graphics for that was a little screwed up?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, when we get to the match, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I had to pause.
We'll talk about that when we get there. I was like, man, the Chiron guy is freaking drunk today.
Yeah.
We got Paul Beaver and then this. So
I thought I was having a stroke there for a minute.
You had pressed next and it was on some other show.
What the hell am I watching?
Yeah, I've definitely got a note about that. We'll definitely cover that. So we take a break, and we return from the break, which featured one of those Jennifer Jarrett hotline commercials, which I was really hoping she was going to tease. Call now if you want to hear how soon after the cameras went off last week the King tried to make his move, but no such luck. She didn't tease us with anything interesting like that. Dave quickly mentions that they have a contract here that they want to try and get signed. We'll see what that turns out to be as we move through the show. Then we meet the first of the new faces, the Natural Bo Alexander. Let's see a little bit of the Natural here, guys.
I want to introduce right now a newcomer to the USWA, the Natural Bo Alexander, who is headed this way right now. He's got a match coming up. Thought maybe we could get a word from him. Maybe, maybe introduce you to him in the USWA, but with that reaction to the fans, I'm not sure. Bo, I guess I should start by just saying welcome to the USWA, and we've heard about you.
Yeah. It's your pleasure. Your pleasure entirely.
Well,
you please shut these people up.
Well, they're free to express their opinion here, and the best way to get them on your side is to be nice to them and demonstrate that you're an excellent wrestler.
They weren't nice to me when I came out here. Why should I be nice? I am the man. I am a man with a real body, not from some backwater state. All right? So you men keep your ladies in the seats where they belong.
Well, I notice you call yourself the Natural.
That's right. You got a lot of people out there calling themselves the Natural, the Nature Boy, but I'm here to tell you, baby, I'm like Coca-Cola. It's the real thing right here.
Well, I appreciate your stopping by. I think the place for you to prove that you're the natural and the real thing is perhaps right there in the ring, and your opponent is waiting.
That's no problem, and again, it has been your pleasure.
So Bo Alexander comes out looking like Chic Donovan found a time machine and came back in it from before he was old or before he had found all the steroids that he was going to eventually take.
That's what I said to Richard. I was like, it looks like a tall Chic Donovan.
Yeah.
The bow tie, the arm things, all that. It's your pleasure, baby.
That should have been his nickname, too. Your pleasure.
Sincerely,
better
Bo
than natural.
Alexander.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like generic Southern Heel number 47. Like,
Yes.
you know, in recent years on like Facebook, everybody has these memes around Halloween of these generic spirit Halloween costumes. It's like if you went to the Halloween store and bought a generic Southern Heel costume, and you'd get those sunglasses, the bow tie, looking like a broke ass, not so fabulous one, or perhaps the third member of Simply Divine who's still waiting on his thong singlet to come in from K&H because they're not used to making those.
But he was healing so hard like a 70s heel.
Yeah.
Dave, will you shut them up? Like, come on, dude. You know that's not how this shit works now.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Everything about this was so tired. I mean, he looked like that guy that debuted the same guy as the Marinos did, the Mr. Fantasy or whatever the hell that was, except he was in a little better shape. But yeah, as soon as he hit the tell these people to shut up, Dave Brown, I'm like, all right, I'm over this guy already. But to give him a fair shake, let's take a little look at some of his in-ring action here.
The fans are just not real happy with Mr. Alexander, a tall. The natural steps up onto the ring apron. He's a tall wrestler. And referee T.D. Steele calls for the bell. And, Corey, we are just about underway. A little insult for the opponent there.
Yeah,
see that. Let's see if he can wrestle.
He's got all of that. Yeah, let's see if he can wrestle. He's got a lot of mouth on him, as you said. Good size on him as well. Weighing in at 251 pounds is the natural Bo Alexander. Clyde Coleman is his opponent. Oh, a couple of punches and doesn't work on the natural Bo Alexander. Alexander slams him down.
Coleman threw 2 right hands and then had to pay for it as Alexander just went right after him.
Yeah, covers him. 2 picks him up. Working over Clyde Coleman. Sets Coleman out, suplexes him over and takes him down. Oh, he's got to do all of that. Probably could have had a cover in there.
He's got a lot of power, though. That snap suplex, he just popped him right over. So you got to be impressed with his size and his power.
A lot to come today on USWA Wrestling. Bo Alexander, big power slam on Coleman. 1, 2, 3. That'll do it. The natural Bo Alexander.
So he's not terrible in the ring. I find him more tolerable than C.W. Bergstrom, but I mean, I'm not overwhelmed or even whelmed at this point, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
We were chatting during that, and we both said if you squint, it kind of looked like Chic Donovan taking on Too Cold Scorpio. You had to squint really like you're trying to read the board from the back of the room with a vision problem.
Yeah.
You open your eyes and you're like, oh, it's Cool Breeze Scorpio.
Yeah, somebody told Scorpio, don't do any of your cool shit, okay? Just and so that guy's another guy we're seeing for the first time, although he didn't get any fanfare or a promo, but that's Clyde Coleman. Remember him as we move through the coming weeks. We'll just leave it at that. See what else we see from Mr. Coleman moving forward. But that's our first new face. That is the natural Bo Alexander. So like I say, we'll see how he goes. I don't like the generic Fabulous One knockoff gimmick, especially since we already have a tag team doing damn near the same thing here. But he's not a high school principal, so he's got that going for him, I guess. Next up, Jennifer is back on the road, and this time she's at home with Eddie Marlin. And Eddie is describing the automobile accident he was recently in with Jeff. And they show pictures of this, and in all seriousness, guys, they were lucky to come out of this mostly unscathed. I mean, let's take a look at some of the pictures they showed here. This is the truck that Eddie and Jeff were in. It rolled over a couple of times, they said. And yeah, that could have been some bad news there. You see Eddie not wearing his green jacket, so it's a somber time when he's not rocking the old golfer jacket. But he said that he and Jeff were joined by a third party in that truck who wasn't ready for them yet, and allegedly told them they still had some good things to do on this earth, guys. And I wonder if that third party added, yeah, but you can't threaten to slap any more women or threaten to snatch them bald-headed or whatever it was he told Laura Davenport a few months ago.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't have the attachment when he was sitting there going, there was a third party in there. I don't know why I wasn't thinking a religious angle there. I was thinking, who else was in there with him? Until he was
They
like,
escaped before the cops got there.
Who was it? It was the driver, and he was drunk off his ass.
I'm going to call the police, but you owe me, Eddie.
Yeah.
They couldn't tell it was Bert with him because it would kill kayfabe, but he wasn't ready for him.
It's that third party that got to that payphone real quick.
I'm not ready for you.
I figured your memo would have been just over the top about that third party. She would like just, oh my God,
Jesus took the wheel that day. Steered it right into the bridge embankment. Jesus wasn't paying attention when he grabbed that wheel.
Jesus drives like Danny Davis.
Right.
Like Danny Davis in a race car there. Drive it right into the wall.
Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, all seriousness, they did. Was the trailer hooked to the truck?
Yes, they were pulling the ring.
Jeez, yeah. I mean, that could have ended bad too, because you got all that steel and tons of stuff in the trailer that could have landed on them.
Well, pushing you forward into God knows what.
Yeah.
I mean, and not trying to be funny, but as bad a shape of those rings are in already, can you imagine how rough it was to be in that ring after that ordeal?
Why was there a divot?
Unscathed either.
Why is there a divot in the middle of this ring?
Jesus Christ, was Mabel down here again? No, they wrecked the damn ring truck.
It's like wrestling on a slightly slanted roof in the middle.
He's got him pinned, but they're sliding towards the ropes.
Oh, this cough is terrible. I'm sorry.
Here, I got a button for you, Gene. Here we go. Where's it at? It's right here.
I got bronchitis.
That's the one right there.
I got bronchitis.
There we go.
I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. And get ready to meet Ronnie Lotz and the Untouchables when we return.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to youtube.com/wrestlinggrenade. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jarrett, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
So, all right, when we come back, Ronnie Lotz and the Untouchables are out. And just like I remembered from before, at least he may not have been here before this actually, but I just remember seeing him in tapes and stuff over the years. He's like that Alexander guy in that he feels like a parody of a wrestling manager. Like you feel like you're watching an old shitty B movie like Bad Guys or something, and this guy's playing a wrestling manager like how we think they would be in the 80s or whatever. And he's bringing out a couple of muscle heads who are clearly like wannabe Road Warriors, but a different gimmick. And I don't know. I mean, they fall way short of the mark as far as being, the Road Warriors. Although they're in better shape than 99% of the USWA roster here. But let's listen to Ronnie Lotz's promo. This is our first impression of Ronnie Lotz here as the new face. To join up with Bert Prentice and Mike Samples as the current lot of heel managers here in Memphis.
Illinois. Boy. Watts comes out here finishing up his cup of coffee and then drops it on the floor, littering it as we get things.
Put the camera on this man here.
What? All right, you've got it. You've got a cap that says Chicago. All right.
Right. All right, here, listen, I want to tell you something. I'm here to make a statement. Hey. First off, mister, you need some teeth. Understand me? I'm here to make a statement. I don't know what you people are seeing out here in Memphis. I drive 500 miles. I don't see nothing solid. Hey, pay attention to me. I don't see nothing solid. You people come here to see wrestling? I'll tell you something, brother. I'm going to show you people how we do it in the city. But I'm not seeing nothing here with these people.
Well, you may. You've got some opponents in the ring right now, but let me just let you know these are not all the opponents in the USWA.
You see this? Hey, you take a look at real wrestlers, mister. 500 miles. I don't see nothing. All
right, I got to give you this. They're impressive looking. They're big. They look tough. Let's see them in action. Let's see what they can do in the ring.
Is this it? Are they ready to roll? I'll tell you what. I think this interview is done, mister. I think their talking's done. I think they get in the ring, and that's it. Say thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. One, two.
500 miles. He ain't seen nothing.
Everything. What he said, he didn't see anything solid. I was like, everything looks like water, Dave. I'm scared.
And his big insults. Oh, you need to get some teeth. I'm like, really? Come on. Like, what are we doing?
I was taken back whenever they took the jackets off. At first, I'm like, okay, they're Chicago mobsters. It's going to be one of those type gimmicks.
Yes.
And then they disrobe. And okay.
They're Badgers.
Well, the thing about it is, like, the guy on the left, he looked great. He's all cut up. But the guy on the right, I mean, he's like a big, huge dude. I feel like if Lawler seen them walk into the dressing room and he's like, I know what you're planning to do today, but you need to stop. I got something for you like next Monday. Or you know what I mean? I feel like that was a wasted opportunity. Or, when you can introduce guys like that to Memphis, because guys that look like that don't come to Memphis every time it's a new person, like maybe introduce him in a way that gets him over extremely strong, not with this weird little dude.
What I thought was fascinating about it, if you squinted, they kind of look like Animal going through different phases in life. Like one looked like Animal in his prime, and one looked like Animal like, a couple weeks before he passed.
Exactly. Before they took the jackets off, I expected they were going to look like Roger Smith and Don Bass, like it's going to be a couple of fat dudes doing a mafia gimmick. And like Josh said, they take the jackets off. I'm like, these guys look like the freaking Road Warriors, like body-wise. Next day, the one guy kind of looks like Animal. And I was getting ready to clip the match, and then I watched it back again. And it's like, if you guys are watching this on YouTube or you go back and, we watch the show, but if you look at those two guys standing there, trust me, they wrestle exactly like you think those two guys would wrestle. And it wasn't a bad match. It was exactly, it's just exactly what you expected it to be. And it just feels tired by 1993. Like the guy, the manager was just generic as hell. The gimmick really is kind of generic. I mean, they're called the Untouchables, and clearly they wear the coats out there and all that. But once they get in the ring, they're just two muscle heads doing muscle head spots. Again, I miss the Harlem Nights at this point. I don't know. At least they were something different than what we had been seeing around there. But I'll withhold judgment before we get a chance to see them in there, tying up with somebody that's of some kind of substance. But the manager,
yeah.
I don't know, man.
I thought it was hilarious that Dave reaffirmed, no, these are not the only opponents in USWA.
We realize we're giving you some shitty competition today. Trust us. There's more.
We got some more. They're not much better, but we got more of them. So Lawler's out next to plug the towns, and he talks about, let's get a look at Lawler here. Boom. He's got his purple on. He's got his
Flower Power King.
The Lawler ensemble recently has been something to see. And I like this screenshot because, you look at him pointing and then Corey, I don't know. I just can't imagine what it is that's happening over there that's grabbed their attention. But
it's a Sears catalog pose.
Basically. Nice purple tights, King. Good Lord.
That's item J. You can get those for $49.95.
See, I'm pointing at it. There's J. There's the price. There's the. But we're having a St. Jude fundraiser where Lawler says the first 200 people that show up to this event are going to get free tickets to the Monday Night Wrestling Coliseum show. I mean, in the mortal words of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, it's hard times. When we're giving away 200, are we even sure 200 people are going to show up to watch this, fundraiser ball game? But if they do, we're going to shove tickets in their hand and beg them, please come to the Monday night shows. It's getting rough.
Somehow we ended up with more tickets, Jerry. I don't know how that happened. We got 220 now.
So I don't know how all this stuff works, but do you think if you go out and give away 200 tickets, you set a price for these tickets, what the value of these tickets are. If you go to a benefit and give away 200 tickets with a perceived value, can the promotion go and do a tax write-off as a donation of some sort of the value of those tickets?
I would assume so, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's more to this than just, hey, we're going to hook everybody up with some tickets. Like, we'll do this benefit. Sure, we ain't going to make any money off the benefit, but we can write off those $210 tickets that we give away.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we're just like 1 week removed before they did Dollar Night.
Yes. Last week, we drew 1,500 people with kids' tickets are $1. And we saw a big uptick in the crowd. More of an uptick in the crowd than we saw for Savage, any of the WWF people that's been here. So clearly, we're trying to make some moves to improve attendance. We're not making any great strides in booking, but we're trying to do some trickery with the tickets anyway. So at least that's something, I guess. But Dave asked Lawler to stay through the break so they can talk about last week's tournament that the King won to get a shot at the champion, Papa Shango. And we see a clip where Lawler meets Steve Dahl in the finals. And despite interference from Bert Prentice and Mike Samples and Rex King and everybody but the fucking popcorn vendor, Lawler still manages to get the win and earn the rematch that he should have just got to start with against Papa Shango. But anyway, he's won it. He's getting it. Now, there's some irony to that situation that we're going to talk about later in the show. But as of right now, Lawler has finally earned his rematch. He's going to be taking on Papa Shango for the unified title. And then Bert comes out and things take a fun turn. Let's hear a little bit of this, guys.
Just shut up. Me and the King got some business. Now what I'm willing to do, Jerry Lawler, is rip up this contract. I'm not going to make you wrestle Papa Shango for the belt. I, being the decent man that I am going to let you out of the match free and clear, no questions asked.
Oh, boy. Did you all hear what he said? He's going to let me out of the match with Papa Shango. You are almost as generous as you are fat.
You know, you talk a great game for being a former champion. But if you want the match, I'll make you a better deal. I got $5,000. $5,000 that I'll give you if you can beat either member of Simply Divine. And when we do beat you, you rip up the contract right here on television today. If you win, you can have the match. Plus, I'll give you the $5,000 cash money right here.
So that there's no misunderstanding, let me get this straight. I wrestle one of your Simply Divine, which is Rex King or Steve Dahl, right?
Yeah, okay.
I beat them. I win $5,000 from you. Plus, I still get title shot with Papa Shango. If by some chance I lose, then I don't get to wrestle Papa Shango, though, right?
We'll rip the contract up on here TV today. If you lose the match, you're out of that match.
I'm in the ring. My only problem with that little proposition is I don't think you got $5,000, Bert. The only way that you would be worth $5,000 is if they started selling people by the pound. But I don't think you got the money. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm getting real sick and tired of your fat joke.
Look how genuinely amused Dave is by some of this stuff. Look at maybe the best one yet right there. My goodness.
Why did Bert in the middle of that, after agreeing to give him $5,000, do like the freeze frame? He stood like this.
He started buffering
For like 2 minutes. It felt like he's like $5,000.
Yeah, he was locked into place there. So Lawler has earned the title shot, but now Bert has said he'll put up $5,000 against Jerry Lawler if he loses, ripping up the contract for his match with Papa Shango. And I love you couldn't see it where I clipped it there, but when Lawler makes the statement, "You're almost as generous as you are fat," Bert gets genuinely tickled by that. Like, you see him kind of turn his head, and Dave obviously laughs at it. But there were a couple of different points when Lawler said, "Against Simply Divine." Now that's Rex King and Steve Dahl. You hear Bert kind of stumbling, goes, "Yeah," and he rolls his eyes. Like, who the hell else would it be? I don't know. To me, that was one of the more fun interactions I've seen on USWA in a little while now.
Well, I thought it was hilarious that Bert immediately started belittling Guy Coffey, the guy that was holding his $5,000. He started calling, "Come on out here, you cheap midget," or whatever he called. I mean, he just started firing on him. "Jerry, he's got the money. I got it." I like all that.
Yeah. If you win this match, we'll split it.
Not sure where all this money's been, but
we'll
I
head down to Platinum Plus.
Got glitter all over it.
So it's going to be Lawler against one of the members of Simply Divine, and it's going to happen right here on TV today. In fact, it's happening right now.
Big right hand on Rex King. Oh, the strap comes down. Jerry Lawler with a quick left jab on King. Sets him up and DDTs him. Rex King out in the middle of the ring. Lawler's up on the middle rope. Oh, Prentice just went running out of here as Lawler slammed down on King.
Here comes Steve Dahl.
Here comes Dahl in it. Now that's just going to be the bell. And Bert Prentice puts his 2 cents in it as well.
Well, that's going to be disqualification on Simply Divine. Rex King and Steve Dahl are losers in the match now. Lawler gets the win by disqualification. Look at Prentice over here in the ring.
Ah, boy. Bert Prentice comes down on a big splash, and he's loving it. Prentice kicking away on Lawler, while King and Dahl continue to work him over. Oh, and they pile drive the King. Come on, Prentice, get him out.
It's 3 against 1 here. T.D. Steele has got Jeff Jarrett. A little help for the King. And now King and Dahl and the celebrating Bert Prentice leave the ring.
So it ends up being Lawler versus Rex King. And that bit right there, holy. I need to get a clip of just that for us just to have to randomly watch from time to time. So we get Lawler versus Rex King, and who on earth could have predicted that Stephen Dunn would end up running in for the disqualification? But after the match, he takes a splash from Bert Prentice, who gets up and does that combination of the honky tonk man and the bushwhacker walk there. Best I could describe it if you couldn't see it. And then he takes a spike pile driver. So now we're left to wonder, okay, he didn't lose his title match versus Papa Shango, but is he going to be able to compete in it? I don't know, guys. Right. What do you think?
Well, I was telling Josh, they basically gave him $5,000 to whip his ass. Like, that's all that was, really. I mean, it's like, here's $5,000, here's your fee, and we're just going to beat the stew out of you.
Yeah, it was like paying for an opportunity to get him out there one more time before Papa Shango gets to him, so maybe they can injure him. That's the way I felt it. Even though Dave didn't, reassure that or anything, that's what I was taking it. Okay, they just wanted to get him out here and try to injure him.
But if you want to try to apply logic to it, he's already out there when Bert's arguing with him. Why wouldn't Simply Divine just run out there and beat the shit out of him? Why did you have to have a match to do that? You're already out on the concrete floor at that point. You could have spike pile drove him on the concrete floor.
I don't know, Gene. It's just Memphis.
Save some money, man. That's $5,000 in your pocket if you don't have to. You don't have to give him.
When we're doing the 85 review show for WrestleCopia, and Ray will post something like that, and he's like, "How does this make sense?" And I just go, "Memphis." I mean, that's all you can say, really. But we'll see how that plays out later on. Next up, the moment we've all been waiting for, or at the very least, Josh. We know Richard doesn't care anything about this sort of thing we've established, but Miss Simpson and Brian Christopher come out, and there's some funny stuff here. Let's check out Miss Simpson cleaning Dave and Corey, and maybe we can get a little better sample of that accent of hers that we got just a little bit of here a couple of weeks ago, the last time she was here.
All right. Things are neat enough around here, if you don't mind, Miss Simpson. Right.
Get him real clean.
We're clean enough, if you don't mind. Do you have anything? Or are you just out here to neaten up a little bit? Should I talk to Brian, I guess?
Oh, no. I have something definitely to say. Mrs. Texas, you're nothing more than a cheap bimbo. I'm sick and tired of you messing with me, and I'm sick and tired of you messing with my most beautiful master. And therefore, I've decided to bring a little gift. Hold this for a second, would you dare?
Well, okay. What are you doing?
Mrs. Texas, the next time I see you, I'm going to beat you until you bleed. Understand that, darling dear?
Well, there's Miss Simpson. I tell you what, that's... Brian, I have your contract. I know you know about the contract.
Dave, shut up. Before you even ask me the question, I'm going to tell you right now, the answer is no, Dave. N-O, I'm not signing any contract.
Okay, the answer is no, you're not going to sign this contract. then may I suggest that you just wait right here just a moment and take a look at this videotape. I'm not the promoter, but Eddie Marlin tells me that is your next opponent unless you sign the contract.
What are you talking about, Dave Brown?
You know very well what I'm talking about. The Undertaker will be your opponent. That will be the way you defend your title against The Undertaker.
All right, now let's address the Miss Simpson shenanigans first here. There's some fun stuff here that gives us a couple of fun screenshots. We got that. This is my favorite, I do believe. That may be the thumbnail for the show this week since Ray already jumped the gun and used this one last time Miss Simpson was on the show. So I figure we will revert back and use this one if he doesn't shut it down. But that's unfortunate timing for old Dave there. Have that one out there. But so getting to hear a little bit more of an actual promo from Miss Simpson, where we at on the accent and that part of the presentation.
It's a little pitchy, ain't it? You know,
to say the least.
Horrible accent, but it just tickled the shit out of me when she said Mrs. Texas.
She's married to Texas.
Yeah, it's not good, but she looks so great, man.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to sound good. I mean, who's listening to anything she's saying anyway at this point, right? I mean,
yeah.
She lifts up the skirt, and I swear it was at least 2-3 people loudly in the crowd. Ooh!
when I was watching it, I thought I was just hearing Josh.
No,
that was from the studio audience, and I love Dave trying to act incredulous, like he's like, "What are you doing?" Oh, yeah, settle down, Dave. You just don't want to have to hide your pants tent on freaking TV5 here.
I was really expecting Brian just to sign the contract and them do like this bait and switch with just the Undertaker. Because they've done stuff like that before,
So help me understand something, guys. And I remember back to when I watched this in real time the first time. I need y'all to help me fill a plot hole, or what I consider to be a plot hole that's bugged me since 1993. Why is it the only way they can get Jeff Jarrett a Southern heavyweight title rematch is to trick Brian Christopher or strong arm Brian Christopher into signing a contract for that match? But they can just arbitrarily put him into a title match against the fucking Undertaker, who doesn't even wrestle in the USWA. He doesn't have to sign that. He doesn't even have to agree to it or like it. But they can do that. But he can't wrestle Jeff Jarrett again unless we can get him to sign the contract. How does this make any sense? Or am I overthinking it, or what?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And why does he get to pick and choose who he wants to, give title shots to anyways? That wasn't a predetermined stipulation.
Right.
He doesn't make the matches. That'd be like if somebody in the UFC was like, I am not fighting the number one contender. I'm just not doing it. They just don't do that.
Then they're like, okay, then if you're not going to fight the number one contender in UFC, then we're bringing in Brock Lesnar from WWE, or we're bringing in, Stone Cold Steve Austin to fight you. It's like, how does one have anything to do with the other? But what's your take on it, Josh?
I truly think that it's what we've talked about in the past, where the people that are laying all this shit out, they truly feel like no one's going to dwell on this. The show will be moving so fast. Nobody's going to dwell on it this hard. It's just wrestling. They don't fucking care, for the most part. That's what they truly believe.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, it's so obvious, but man, I'm not surprised.
I feel like if you ask Lawler, somebody would be like, well, sorry, we didn't realize that 30 years later, 3 assholes will be rewatching tapes from 1993 and analyzing the shit out of it. Excuse us.
Well, they should have had that booking decision, though. You should always think, how is this going to play out? And if they're not putting that much time and effort into it, what are we doing here?
Well, clearly they didn't put much effort in there to think how it was going to play out on Monday night, much less 30 years later. But By any circumstance, that brings us to having this match signed on Monday for the Southern Heavyweight title. Brian Christopher versus the Undertaker, and who's that he's with? Who's that coming with the Undertaker, guys?
It's the Buc-ee's mascot,
Paul Beaver.
Old Paul Beaver's coming to town with.
That just sounds bad when you say it
Well,
like that.
I picture the guy that's typing up the Chiron or whatever. He's like in a studio, but he's in a room, and they're just saying like, it's gonna be the Undertaker and Paul Beaver. Paul what? Paul Beaver. Paul Beaver. Yeah, and they type.
I don't know. I'd like to think that he was in the middle of typing up the Chiron as he's looking on the monitor, and Miss Simpson's out there flipping her skirt up right as he's typing Paul Bearer, and he gets just completely sidetracked. And
a little Freudian slip.
Exactly. But, that may not be the case at all. But next up, old Jeff Jarrett's out there once again rocking the coat of 1,000 Post-it notes, and he addresses that Brian's going to be wrestling the Undertaker rather than him. And then he talks about the fact that he's bringing in Moondog Spot as his partner to wrestle Simply Divine. Yay. File that under shit I absolutely do not give a fuck about. No Miss Texas out here with him for this promo, but we are going to see her out here later, so we may get to hear from her. We'll just have to wait in suspense to see which line comes out of her when they pull the string this week. But am I being a jerk, or are you guys like really psyched to see Jeff and Moondog Spot wrestle Simply Divine for the titles?
I mean, honestly, I would only just hope that I would get to see like Bert or somebody, get attacked by the Moondog. But I'm not just, it's going to be a great match, because it's not. No. But somebody could get hurt, so I'll watch it.
We know my love for the Moondogs is. So even saying that hurt me to say my love for the Moondogs, because I don't want that clipped. Because
you're gonna get a live bump.
Yeah, I hate the matches. If you've seen one, you've seen them all, and now I'm gonna see half of one. So, and I'm not really too big on the tag team champions either. So probably gonna skip this match. We're gonna go get some popcorn and pee.
So the only thing worse than this could be if you had to watch Moondog Spot in a thong wrestling in a match. That would probably.
Well, that might actually make it better. I mean, just a little bit.
Well, and wonder what Richard's into, guys. If you kind of wonder why he doesn't seem overly excited about Miss Simpson, there you go.
Wonder if he has that long stringy hair everywhere.
Yeah. The carpet matches drapes.
He's not wearing a thong, it's just hair.
I'm hoping we get to hear one of Josh's Bert Prentice impressions that he sneaks in. He's like, he hadn't really been showing that off. He snuck that in last week, and when I was doing the editing, I called it a little more. I'm like, that's a damn good Bert Prentice. Why are we not leaning into that every week? Like, holy shit.
We've heard Fat Ass talk about his grandmother every week. Why are we doing that?
I'm not calling anybody Fat Ass, okay?
No, not you.
That's
you're talking about fans. I thought you were thinking. I was like, no, I promise you, that's not.
No. I was sitting there thinking that's what the audience is probably thinking. Fat Ass over there talking about his dead grandmother every week. Josh is spewing out gold. He does
sitting around waiting for. They're sitting around waiting for me all to speak up, and Danny Davis isn't on this episode, so they're like, "Ah, shit, we'll probably skip this one." But if we can get Josh to throw some Bert Prentice in here, we can.
Yeah, Josh has a few good impressions that he does. Yeah. You could. Was that on Patreon that we had one that we won't talk about here?
Yes,
I don't think did that one.
I don't. But it didn't make. Yeah, it didn't make it because the sound didn't take.
Maybe we'll do that at the end of this one, on Patreon.
Yeah.
Go check out Patreon and you'll hear a pretty good impersonation.
Yeah, we lost some pretty good stuff that night that the recorder didn't get for Patreon. That bums me out because that was a great rant by Josh about that person. Which now I feel bad about because I was recently told that person said something nice about us in the podcast. And so, but anyway.
Well.
Anywho, we'll keep him in a box.
Before we say too much that makes that easy to figure out, we'll move it along. But yeah, like I say, anytime you feel still an opportunity for Bert Prentice to speak out, especially if somebody's speculating about what he looks like in the thong, whether he has stringy hair everywhere. By all means,
Why
step
is he
right in
hugging
there.
that man? Why is he hugging him so hard? That's weird.
Anyways, sorry.
All right. So next up, we have a clip from last Monday night where Jeff Gaylord was wrestling the Rock and Roll Phantom, a.k.a. the USWA pinch hitter, who seemingly just sits by his phone over in Greasy Corner, Arkansas, waiting for that inevitable phone call that someone has either quit or no-showed, and suddenly he's back again with no explanation.
I can see his kid getting the internet in the mid-90s. Won't you tie up that phone line, damn it?
He's in full gear because you got to stay
Eddie
ready.
Marlin's going to call.
You got to stay ready. So he's wearing the
right.
rock and roll gear all over the place, going to Walmart and stuff in it.
You ain't got to get ready if you stay ready. Like, Dad, why are you sitting over there in a mask holding a guitar? But Bergstrom DDT's Gaylord on the floor or something. I'm not exactly sure. I kind of nodded off during this part. Then all of a sudden, I realized we're back in the studio, and Dave Brown intentionally calls Jeff Gaylord over to cut a promo before his match when he was just headed to the ring to wrestle. And all of a sudden, Dave's like, "Hey, come on over here, Jeff." And I'm like, "Is this a Dave Brown heel turn? Is that what's happening right now? You piece of shit! What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to look this way.
Let's hear what nonsense Jeff Gaylord's got for us this week. I'm sure it should be wonderful.
Jeff Gaylord is on his way to the ring, but I want him to stop by here just for a moment and maybe get a quick comment about this situation with C.W. Bergstrom.
Oh, man, that C.W. Bergstrom. I hated his guts when he came here, and now I really hate him, man. C.W. Bergstrom. He cost me a lot of money. And now it's time for you to pay, C.W. Bergstrom, and you're going to pay with your hide.
Jeff Gaylord going to be looking for the principal right on down the road.
Stick around and see that one. Will be exciting. Reggie B 5. Slams down on Gaylord, whips him into the ropes for 5. Gaylord comes off and a nice hip toss on Reggie B. Hey, look at this Gaylord stand. Comes off that tackle, boy.
Big dumb jock, don't come out here running your mouth about C.W. Bergstrom, me, or anybody else. You're just a big dumb jock, undisciplined, and you have no class, no etiquette, and you have no wrestling ability, and don't pretend to have any. You understand? You can't beat C.W. Bergstrom. You can't beat me. You understand? You can't beat me.
Make it the opportunity to find out right here, Mike Samples, as Gaylord goes to work on Samples. Samples out here insulting Gaylord. Look out. Bergstrom from behind nails Jeff Gaylord across the back.
C.W. Bergstrom comes out after Gaylord kind of taunting, being taunted by Mike Samples in there. Jumped over the top rope after Samples. And TD still's going to call for the bell.
Yeah,
they all jump on Jeff, yeah.
Wow. Whenever Bergstrom shows up now, I just see G.E. Smith from the Saturday Night Live Band. I expect to hit him with a saxophone or something. What do you think about Jeff jumping over that top rope out to the floor and nearly killing himself? Boy, that was...
Over nothing. I mean, absolutely unnecessary. He's just, he's trying so hard to just do big stuff and just come across as a good guy.
Let's watch this part again real quick, guys, and then I want to get y'all's immediate feedback just from hearing this part. We're just gonna watch the first little part of this. Hold on.
Jeff Gaylord is on his way to the ring, but I want him to stop by here just for a moment and maybe get a quick comment about this situation with C.W. Bergstrom.
Oh, man, that C.W. Bergstrom. I hated his guts when he came here, and now I really hate him, man. C.W. Bergstrom. He cost me a lot of money. And now it's time for you to pay, C.W. Bergstrom, and you're going to pay with your hide.
It's like he doesn't know anything normal aside from the shit he saw on TV as a kid.
Yeah.
And like he thinks that that's how normal people act. But he's not normal, so he has no fucking clue. You know what I mean?
It was like somebody wrote a script for him and said, go out there and act like a 5-year-old trying out for a play, and you're supposed to be really mad. I'm surprised he didn't go, you make me so bad, Steve Bergstrom, shake fist.
It's so weird. Like, we started out with that big long promo and made fun of how bad it was, but it's like they've gotten progressively worse since then. Like, I'll look back on that fondly, like, boy, if we can get back to that, we'd be doing something, because they get worse every week. But him actively trying to be a babyface is it's comical and sad at the same time, that he or whoever's putting him up to this thinks this has the potential to get over. Like, this is really going to get the fans behind him. A few more of these promos, and I think he's going to be there. So Jeff Gaylord, he can't even get a win over Reggie B. Fine. This turns into another outside interference, run in, beat him up on the floor. I mean, I didn't realize it's his fault because he jumped out of the ring and ran over to attack Mike Samples, but that was all just to set the table for Bergstrom to come out and attack him. So match number 5, Jeff Gaylord versus Reggie B. Fine. We had 3 clean endings because they were straight up squash matches in the beginning. We had Freer over Shadow. We had the Bo Alexander defeated Coleman, Too Cold Coleman, or whatever we called him. And then in the third match, obviously the Untouchables beat the Hutchings brothers. But the minute anything even remotely competitive starts to happen, Lawler and Rex King turns into a run-in disqualification. Gaylord and Reggie B, who Reggie B had, at this point, has pretty much been used as a enhancement guy, but this turns into a interference finish. God help us, we just can't have any clean endings unless it's just a straight up absolute squash. But we take a break, and then we return. We see a clip from last week when Brian Christopher's whipping the shit out of Miss Texas. And then we see a clip from the Mid-South Coliseum where Brian slammed the hell out of her. But before the clip ends, Miss Texas gets a hold of the belt, and she does get some decent shots in on Brian and Miss Simpson as well. Miss Texas comes out, gives us a quick promo, but nothing really clip-worthy here. So then we move on to our main event, mixed tag team match. Now let's take a look at what the graphic says here. The graphic tells us this is Brian Christopher and Miss Simpson versus Jeff Gaylord and Miss Texas. So there's actually only one person on the Chiron that's actually in the match. How drunk is this guy? Paul Beaver, and then this atrocity.
I would almost bet that this was the original main event for the night, or for the day, and they changed it at some point and didn't tell the graphics guy.
But he had time to make a graphic for Jeff Gaylord versus Reggie B. Fine. So it should have occurred to him like, oh, y'all are having Gaylord wrestling back-to-back matches? No, we changed that. Oh, let me go fix that.
Yeah.
But plus, okay, if Brian Christopher and Miss Simpson was this match, what did they think we were doing with Master of Terra and Brandi Wine, who, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know that we've ever seen her on TV at this point, unless I'm wrong, but I started to clip this, and then I just didn't, because it's, I mean, I'm not saying it was anything terrible, but it wasn't anything we really need to see. Nothing really stood out about it. And if you folks take a moment, and if you haven't watched this episode yet and think about it, I think you know what happens here, right? I mean, I was an idiot. I'm gonna admit I was a complete idiot. I went into this match with the logic of, when I see who's in the ring, once I get past who it says is supposed to be in the ring, and I see who's actually in the ring, I go, you know what? We've beat Master of Terror like a freaking drum for months, other than that 1 week detour as middleweight champion that kind of came out of nowhere and went away just as fast. Brandi Wine, as I mentioned, we either haven't seen her all year or she's never been on USWA TV. I'm like, so there won't be any problem letting Jeff or Miss Texas pin one of these two. And then afterwards, we can get the inevitable run-in from either Brian Christopher, Miss Simpson, Simply Divine, Bert Prentice, all the above, whatever we need to do. But it's not going to hurt anybody to let Master of Terra or this Brandi Wine chick get pinned, right? Wrong. No, we get a fucking run-in. Brian and them run in. It ends in a DQ. And then it ends up being one of those deals where, half the card for Monday night runs in for the big schmoz to end the show. I mean, I get sometimes it's cool to end the show with the big turmoil, and I wouldn't even be offended by that. Just why could Jeff not pin Master of Terra, or why couldn't Miss Texas pin Brandi Wine, Why did it have to be another run-in DQ?
In fact, it would have made more sense if Miss Texas pinned Brandi won. Because you got to build her up after the ass whipping she has been taking recently. It would have been good to give her a win and let her get some screen time in a positive way.
Absolutely. So, for the first time in 1993, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something here, but I want to say for the entirety of 1993, this is one of the first times we actually saw 6 matches on the TV show. I think before this, 5 had kind of been the record and the standard. Some matches we would do as few as 3 matches on the show. The first 3 were straight up squashes, like I mentioned before, so we did get winners in those. And then the following 3 have all been repetitive with, disqualifications, run-ins. So we're 50-50 this week, which sadly is still an improvement over what we've been getting. So we're, I guess, somewhat moving in the right direction. But let's take our final podcast commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll let Dave and Corey run down the card for Monday night, and we'll see where all this got us.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/wrestlepod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
Hi, this is Mike Needham, host of the Reckless Abandon Podcast with Mike Needham. We invite you to jump on your favorite podcast platform and search for the Reckless Abandon Podcast and give us a listen. I'm sometimes joined by a part-time podcaster, part-time co-host, and full-time wife, Tiffany Nicole. And when you get the wife on there, sometimes that can lead to some very interesting conversation. We talk wrestling, we talk pop culture, we talk local events in West Tennessee, local happenings in West Tennessee, and a ton of other stuff. I would like to tell you that this is a show about nothing, but Seinfeld already has that copyrighted, so I cannot tell you that our podcast is a show about nothing. But be sure to check out the Reckless Abandon Podcast. Find us on Facebook. Also, look up the Microgroup Podcasting family on Facebook and see some of our other podcasts we have out there. Until next time, make good choices, and always remember, no dollar, no dice.
That may just be our new permanent commercial bumper. We may just not run any besides that moving forward. So let's hear it. Let's see what all this has been building towards and find out what the card is for Monday night at the Mid-South Coliseum.
Monday night, it all begins. The Natural, Bo Alexander, new to the USWA. He will be going against Randy Rocket in the opening match. The tag team of the Untouchables. Ronnie Lotz is bringing them here out of Chicago. The way they do it in the city, I always show them how we do it at the Mid-South Coliseum as they go against Mark Freer and Danny Davis. Big grudge match coming up after that. A little satisfaction there for Jeff Gaylord just a moment ago in the ring, but not enough, I'm sure. He will be going against Principal C.W. Bergstrom. Mike Samples will be over in the corner. Then the cat fight. Miss Simpson going against Miss Texas. Each has threatened the other. This one has the makings of a wild, wild match. Yes. Tag titles will be at stake then as Rex King and Steve Dahl will have Bert Prentice in their corner, of course. They will have the belts on the line against Jeff Jarrett and Moondog Spot in a Moondog match. Then Southern title at stake. Brian Christopher will be going against the Undertaker with Paul Bearer. Simply Divine is out here yelling, "We are out of time. I don't care what you have to say." We'll see you next week, fans. Until then, for Corey Maclin, I'm Dave Brown. So long, everybody.
I like how Corey jumped up like he's fixing to defend Dave Brown. Like, get out of here with that shit now.
That might be my favorite part of the show.
That's why I left
them talk
stuff out. And I'm like, oh, we're leaving that in. That's pretty good. They got punked out by Dave and Corey. Like, next week in the main event for the tag team titles, it's going to be Dave Brown and Corey Maclin challenging Simply Divine. And which, I mean, that sounds ridiculous to some people, but like, this is Memphis. There's times in Memphis history that could have been a thing.
Yeah.
Like, fast forward to when Corey was running the show, it very well definitely could have been a thing if Dave would have agreed to it. Instead, it'd be like Corey and Coco Beware, but whatever.
I noticed the graphics guy got the bear changed.
Yeah, they don't usually go back and fix that stuff, but somebody's like, Jesus Christ, dude, you put Paul Beaver, Vince McMahon's going to call out here and shut the whole company down. You better fix that. So looking at the card, did you guys notice anything? Was there anything about the card that stood out to you?
I told Josh, I said, you got that Untouchables wrestling the Unwinnables.
Oh, he got me, man. He got me with that one, dude.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. So last week, they do this whole tournament where the winner's going to get a shot at Papa Shango for the title.
Mm-hmm.
We have Lawler with the intention of having Shango and Lawler for the title this week, which didn't draw the first time anyway, so I don't know that really would have made much difference here. However, after Lawler wins the title, and so I've been reading up some of the dirt sheets on this. I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. After Lawler wins the title, they get word that Lawler is needed for Monday Night Raw before the TV show on Saturday. So that's why they come up with the angle where they have Dahl and King spike pile drive Lawler to take him out of the match. Vince then agrees to send the Undertaker, who's not on Raw that night, to come wrestle Bryan in Lawler's place. Now, for once, I think USWA came out ahead on this deal, getting the Undertaker in place of this Lawler and Shango match, which clearly nobody's cared about in the past. I don't know why they're going to suddenly care about it now. So I think they come out ahead. Aside from this whole, Bryan's forced to wrestle the Undertaker, the whole flimsy premise of the match is questionable, but it's got to. We're going to see here in a minute whether it helped with the draw of the show or not. My only concern, I wish they would have made it a non-title match, because you pretty much the densest mark in the world. You have to know how this match is ending going into it, right? I mean, is there any question of how this match is going to turn out?
No, I mean, like you said, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion of who's going to win.
Now, the other glaring question for me, go ahead, Josh. You may hit on this.
I was just going to say, you almost want to think that it's going to be DQ, because, I can't see the Undertaker coming back and forth, being the Southern champion, like the Intercontinental champion of USWA. But at the same time, it's extremely intriguing to see it for somebody like Bryan to see, to actually wrestle the Undertaker.
He comes back with the belt, and Vince is like, "What the hell is that? Is that a dinner plate?
Why are you wearing a letter around your waist, Mark?" It's what they use for titles. You don't have to talk like that, pal. Nobody's around.
You need to make that title rest in peace, pal.
It's a championship. So the other glaring thing to me, once I watch this show and I see this card when I'm, getting everything ready for this podcast, where the hell's PG-13?
Yeah. I was wondering that too, because they've been getting over and everything as babies, and you've introduced 3 new heels on this show.
I hope like hell the Marinos didn't talk them out of the territory. Look, man, we can make this thing work.
Man, we can carry all over Kentucky. We'll be printing money, son. But yeah, I mean, you turned them. You did this. We talked about it last week. You did this phantom turn that actually worked, but then you've done nothing with them. You put them in a non-title match against Simply Divine last week. Bert screwed them. I would have rather came to the Mid-South Coliseum this week to see PG-13 get a rematch with Bert banned from ringside or duct taped in a trash bag or whatever than watch them wrestle Jeff and Moondog Spot. But that's just me. And before we get into too much of that talk, I guess we need to go ahead and say that it's time to ask you guys the questions and officially address the episode. So that being said, what was your least favorite part of today's episode?
I would say my least favorite part was the whole stuff with Jeff Gaylord and C.W. Bergstrom. I could not care less about this if I tried. It's every week I feel like I'm just looking at it going, it's a chore to watch that match, like that matchup of people. There's no personality there. It's just hard to watch. It is comical. I'll give it that, especially for the Jeff Gaylord promos but it's not good. So
no.
So you remember back in the day, like in Memphis in the 80s, where you have somebody new come in, and more than likely they were accompanied by a promo video of some sort. We're going to show you a video with music to it, them beating up several people from wherever they were before.
Right.
And then, like them skiing or freaking riding a motorcycle or something to make people latch on to them in a way. You're like, oh man, that dude looks interesting. Maybe his matches would be good or whatever. I'm excited to see him coming through. We have introduced Bo Alexander and then the Untouchables. No videos, no nothing. It's just, here these guys are. We're going to put them just squashing the hell out of somebody. And then we'll put them on the card for Monday night. It's like you're not building them up to the point of anything other than here they are.
Yeah.
Whenever you watch something for an extended period of time, like whether it's a TV show or whatever, I watched Memphis wrestling from when I could remember watching TV, and you start to expect certain things. And it's like all of these things that we used to do, we're not doing anymore. It's like, it really pissed me off when I got to thinking about what I really hated about it. And it's like, yeah, we're just throwing these guys out here. No fanfare, no nothing. It's just, here they are.
No context or explanation of them whatsoever. My least favorite, it would be a toss up between the Bo Alexander guy's promo and Ronnie Lotz's promo, just because it was such just old tired bullshit that, okay, to your point, we didn't see any promo videos. We don't have any context to these guys other than, so you're telling me you think that a squash match and this guy going 500 miles and I ain't seen nothing solid is enough to make me want to buy a ticket to see these guys wrestle? Well, I'm sorry, it's not. And this guy saying, "Oh, take a bath, shut up, Dave Brown," all that old bullshit. No, give us something to care about. So far, they haven't. So let's see. The number 2 question, as always, is what is your favorite part of today's episode?
So my favorite part of today's episode is the fact that we had new wrestlers in there and they actually had matches. So that was my biggest thing, is because I feel like when I watch these, sometimes it's just a talk show. It's not a wrestling show, it's a talk show. And we had matches out the wazoo this week. So that, and the fact that we got some new blood in there, that was my 2 favorite things about the show.
So for me, even when we critique it, I guess it doesn't make sense totally as a whole. But like I, briefly touched on, it was just the fact seeing the Undertaker versus Brian Christopher. Now, obviously we know more than likely Undertaker's not going to pin him. But I feel like it's somebody the way I saw the Undertaker back then, it was like, he was up there with Flair, Hogan, like he was a guy, and for him to be coming in to potentially destroy Brian Christopher, because back when I was a kid, I absolutely hated Brian Christopher. He was such a good bad guy. He did his job. And for Undertaker to potentially be putting him in a body bag, and Brian may not even show up that next week, might have to forfeit the title. I was excited.
To me, that's the most compelling part of the show. I guess the frustration I have with it is just the booking part of it feels lazy. It's like the premise of why he's coming in is just weak. Like, to me, you could have built it up if you had known. I guess they can't help because this was kind of thrown together at the last minute. But if you just build it up as like, hey, Undertaker's coming in to challenge the Southern Heavyweight Champion, and that happens to be Brian Christopher, and now Brian has to deal with that. And then you could have had Jarrett going out there. Well, if you gave me a shot when I asked for it before, I'd have been the champion, and you wouldn't even had to wrestle the Undertaker or some smart ass shit like that or something, But this whole premise of, well, we can't make you wrestle Jeff Jarrett, but we can make you, even if it was but to me, if it had been a non-title match, like, all right, well, look, clearly we've established we can't make you defend the title because we can't make you defend it against Jeff Jarrett. Use that whole, technically you only have to defend it every 30 days and you've already defended it this month. Well, we can't make you defend the title, but by God, we can make you wrestle the Undertaker. And if you don't wrestle the Undertaker, we can strip you of the Southern Heavyweight title. I can believe that. All that seems plausible. But the whole, we can't make you defend against Jeff Jarrett, but we can make you defend against the Undertaker. It just takes me out of it so hard. But as you said, just the getting to see Brian wrestle the Undertaker and seeing him in there with a big name WrestleMania level star is interesting to me. And we'll get more into that into the next question, which is, of course, would today's TV show inspired you to buy a ticket for Monday night's card?
I think it would, just on the premise of the Undertaker being there. As a kid that didn't see WWE guys come through very often, in my town, I would have wanted to see the Undertaker. I still don't think I've seen the Undertaker live. The one show that I was supposed to go to see at the Mid-South Coliseum, he had some kind of flight problem. So I don't think I ever saw the Undertaker. So yeah, I would have definitely went to go Monday night.
Yeah, I rode with you, Richard Lee. I'm right there because of that same deal. I mean, whenever you get to see the Undertaker, especially the Gray Glove Undertaker, man, I felt like he was a different recipe than whenever he got the purple gloves and then started moving forward with the Ministry of Darkness and all that stuff. I feel like Gray Glove Undertaker is just, you know what I mean? There's something special about it. And like I said, he was so high up on the ladder to me. Yes, I would have begged and pleaded my mother and Miss Simpson. She, even back then, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I want to see her. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, one-on-one, because she's not going to spend the whole time just out on the apron. She's going to have to be in there for a considerable amount of that match. So, yeah, I'm the same way. I did get a chance to see The Undertaker live a few times over the years, but regardless, I would have been there to see this Brian Christopher match because, again, Undertaker was just another level of superstar, so to speak, at that time. He is a main event. Up at this point, he's beaten Hogan for the WWF title in the past. He's pretty much the top of the food chain in the WWF. And to see him coming down here against a guy who's, top of the food chain in Memphis, but in your mind, you're like, well, are these Memphis guys really as good as the WWF guys? This is a chance to see right here. So, yeah, I'm going to this for sure. Now, June 7th, 1993, we draw with Undertaker on the card, 1,750 people, a little over a $10,000 gate. And I feel like this week is an opportunity that we can't pass up to bring back the Retro Wrestling Review's favorite new game show. How many matches will end in DQ this week? All right, guys. Who went first last time on guessing?
I think me.
All right, Josh.
So how many matches we got?
We got 6 matches total this week.
So as you pointed out earlier on TV, we went 50-50. So I feel like they may semi-care about what's going on. So I'm just going to go with 2.
All right.
I'm going to do the the Ric Flair 4. Woo! I think we're going to get at least 2/3 of our contests. They're going to be, disqualifications.
All right, folks, just to recap, we've got 6 matches. Josh predicts 2 will end in disqualification. Richard predicts there will be 4. Let's see who's right. In the opening match, the Natural, Bo Alexander, defeated Randy Rocket. In the second match, the Untouchables with Ronnie Lotz defeated Nightmare Danny Davis and Mark Freer via pinfall. We don't know who got pinned, but I'm sure there's speculation.
Yeah, that was a free space. In bingo, they call that a free space, Gene. You knew who was going to lose that one.
Match number 3, Jeff Gaylord defeated C.W. Bergstrom via disqualification. In the fourth match, Miss Texas defeated Miss Simpson via disqualification. In the semi-main event, the USWA Tag Team Champions Rex King and Steve Dahl Simply Divine with Bert Prentice defeated Jeff Jarrett and Moondog Spot via disqualification.
Was that not a fucking Moondogs match?
That's 2 weeks in a row.
It was a quarter.
No, I'm saying, was the title of it not a Moondogs match where they were going to have like weapons and shit? Or did I read that wrong?
I didn't catch that part. We may have to go back and rewatch that. But that's 2 weeks in a row, though. A Moondog match has ended in disqualification on him, which I didn't think was possible.
So we're up to 3. I'm fucked.
Yeah, I got it.
3. Your only hope here is that either Brian Christopher pins the Undertaker or Undertaker pins Brian Christopher. So in the main event, USWA Southern Heavyweight Champion Brian Christopher fought to a double disqualification with the Undertaker.
Does that count as 2?
Well,
no.
So, Richard Lee, you are this week's champion. Our game show, how many matches are going to end in disqualification, and your award for this is you get to be off next week, apparently. I guess we'll say.
Some people would say I'm off this week, Gene.
Yeah. So going back looking through the dirt sheets here, they reported the first appearance in Memphis of The Undertaker on a USWA show drew 1,750 people, which is double the weekly average. Undertaker went to a double disqualification with Brian Christopher in the main event. Clearly, it was The Undertaker responsible for the house show business because everywhere else, business is terrible. Business is terrible with a lot of subscribers from the area complaining to us that the quality of the content, as well as the talent and the stale booking, not to mention the continual talk of Lawler's WWF character being completely inconsistent with his USWA character and how it all makes wrestling look like bullshit. So clearly this is obvious even to Memphis fans who are not particularly known to be smart to the business. This past week, all the matches around the circuit pretty much ended in a disqualification for outside interference, and even their most loyal of the fan base seemed to be wearing thin with this predictable and lazy booking as of late. Now, I know a lot of podcasts go back and pick apart, Dave's version of things, and I know there's a lot of things that can be disputed in current times, but I think they nailed that one, guys. I think that's pretty much a accurate depiction of what we're seeing here. It kind of reflects our feelings of what the booking has been. This card that we just discussed, when it made its way to Nashville a week later on 6/12, they drew 350 people. There were some changes to the card. Bo Alexander defeated Randy Rocket. Mark Freer and Danny Davis defeated Mustafa Ali and Tony Falk. The Southern Heavyweight title match was Brian Christopher defeating Moondog Spike by disqualification. Tag team title match was Rex King and Steve Dahl defeating Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett by disqualification. Miss Texas defeating Miss Simpson by disqualification. And surely they listed these out of order in their results because the last match they show is Jeff Gaylord defeating Bergstrom by disqualification. Surely that didn't go on last over Lawler.
It was the main event because it was going to be like the mega paddling event. Bare ass paddling or something was going to happen. We'll close it out hot. We'll draw them in next week.
I guess they were just ready to kill off Nashville altogether. Like, this is how we're sending them home.
You know what? I'm really tired of making this drive to Nashville every week. Why don't we just kill the town?
What it feels like, if that's truly what they ended with, but surely somebody just listed the matches out of order is what I'm going to assume. But yeah, with no Undertaker in Nashville, they draw 350, although that's better than the 200 they drew for the tournament a week prior to that. But still, I would say they're dead on as far as the Undertaker being responsible for the 1,750 they drew at the Mid-South Coliseum. And over on the Torch, it's being said, too, apparently a lot of the readers are writing in and saying that they feel that Lawler's stint in the WWF is turning into a major expose of the business, since he's a heel in one place, a face on the other, on television that airs in this on the same market on the same day. I said, per example, there was a Bret Hart Papa Shango match that aired on the Superstars this weekend where Lawler was on commentary, and Lawler was all for Papa Shango, rooting for him throughout the match, who he's feuding with in the USWA. And of course, there's no mention of the USWA Unified title or any of that on the WWF show. And they said, in addition, Lawler will make statements on the TV show, such as during a recent 8-man tag team match, Lawler claimed on a WWF telecast he's never been in an 8-man tag match in his life. He couldn't even conceive of such, when Memphis fans knows he's been in a million of these. I don't know. What's you guys' take on that? Like, I remember him being like a babyface on Memphis TV and a heel in Texas. And I remember a lot of this, him being babyface in Memphis and heel on TV. And I always kind of wrote it off the way Josh did here on the show a few weeks ago, where he just kind of, look at it as like, well, he's a heel there because, they don't do wrestling the same way they do in the South, and they look down on the South. But in this instance, where he's rooting on the guy he's feuding with in Memphis, it's a little harder to, shut your mind off. In 2024, it's no problem. But if you're looking at it through the eyes of a fan in 1993, and especially a fan in the age group we would have been in then, yeah, it's probably a little hard to wrap your head around, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember having that exact same feeling, like, why is he doing this here? You know what I mean? Why is he acting that way in WWE? And then coming back and acting like a good guy, I was like, well, this guy's just full of shit. That's what I felt as a kid. I was like, this guy's just full of shit. He's being two-faced. When he goes up there, he's acting like a jerk. So yeah, I did not like it when I was a kid.
I remember having those same feelings, but I'm pretty sure moving forward within the next, I don't know, month or two, Lawler literally addresses that kind of stuff on TV, and he's like, well, the reason I act that way up there is because I don't really like the way they live up there. I specifically remember him kind of addressing it that way. So whenever Lawler came out and he said that, later on, like, I remember, okay, I believe the king, but it was very confusing before.
And I feel like the reason he did that was because of these reports in the dirt sheets, because I know for a fact from people who were there, I don't know that Lawler subscribed to them, but I do know that the dirt sheets got passed around in the dressing room and that Lawler would read them, at spot shows and stuff, and they would talk about how they were being perceived. So I can see somebody handing that to Lawler going, hey, man, they're questioning this whole deal with you being, a face here and a heel there. And I figured that's why he chose to go out and address it. Once he learned that not just the smarts, but the actual fans were writing in different places complaining of this, I'm sure he felt like, well, all right, we got to try to explain this as best we can. So that's why I felt moved to include it on the show this week, because I figured it was going to get addressed in one form or another if people are really starting to speak out about it. And for me, I thought overall this show was an improvement because we had more matches. We at least had 3 clean finishes compared to the none that we've gotten in the past. At least we're trying to bring in some new faces, but again, we're not doing a great job with how we're bringing them in, how we're presenting them, or even who we're bringing in. But And I know it was kind of dumb luck on their part that it happened to be, but having the Undertaker there, a new face, a new matchup, is a real big step in the right direction. But you have to think, if Lawler hadn't got booked for Monday Night Raw, we would have had Lawler and Papa Shango again, and people have clearly just not given a shit about Papa Shango in Memphis. I figure we'd have had our usual 600-700 people here. Because when I run down those list of questions earlier, and I asked you guys, hey, would this show, would it have made you want to buy a ticket to this show if the main event was Lawler and Shango in a rematch for the title? I doubt your answer would have been yes, right?
Right. I mean, because we know Lawler's got to get the belt back, and this is probably going to be a DQ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or a DQ. But it wasn't going to be a stellar match. I mean, both of you stated the reason I'm going, and I said the same thing. The reason I'm going this week is I want to see The Undertaker wrestle Brian Christopher.
Yep.
I don't need to see Lawler wrestle Papa Shango. They're just going to shoot fire at each other and no sell it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The only thing curse-wise that we've seen, or anything of the sort, like we saw with him in Ultimate Warrior, has just been him shooting the fire out of the staff or whatever, and that's it. So there's none of that mind games and spells or voodoo and shit going on. They're not playing into any of that. It's just, here's this physically big guy that has this staff that shoots fire out sometimes. He's going to come and beat Lawler up. I was really disappointed in that aspect. They didn't play into the voodoo any harder. And this is Memphis. Come on.
I was gonna say, look at how they took a whole episode basically to play into Doink's character. It was a whole episode of him playing pranks on Lawler and Jarrett and all these different guys, and the whole show focused on getting his character over. So you think, all right, we're bringing Papa Shango in. Let's spend an episode getting over. He should have made Guy Coffey, sweat oil or whatever the fuck he did on TV, or make Jeff Jarrett puke or something. I don't know, but done something. Like you said, it was just, he did that staff, which barely shot out anything the first time he used it. So then he nearly blew poor Scotty Flamingo's head off to make up for it on TV the following week. His hair nearly went up like Michael Jackson in the damn video back in the day. It's kind of on them, but at the same time, you think of it as like, oh, this big WWF star came in. But if you go back in time and you look at when the heyday of Papa Shango and WWF it was 92. By 93, they weren't really even using him. I mean, he was on these shows.
Wrestling Challenge.
Wrestling Challenge. He's doing the C Loop house shows, wrestling El Matador in the main event, when by then nobody cares about either one. So,
and see, this is a time period for WWF too. They're starting to do like high school gyms and stuff up north just to keep working, I think. So yeah, I guess it's either, do you want to get paid okay in this high school gym up north, or do you want to barely make any money in this community center down south?
Do you want to work in a high school gym in the south? for Jerry Lawler and Jerry Jarrett, and you may not get paid, and you may have to ride with the ring truck and get into an accident. So.
Be the third party.
It was Shango's voodoo that saved him.
What if Eddie Marlin said that? Thank God for Papa Shango and his voodoo. A lot of people thought I was talking about God when I said the third party was in there. Oh, it's Papa Shango.
Oh, it's Papa Shango. We call him Big Papa. But yeah. So overall, this wasn't a bad episode. I thought it was an improvement, and I'm looking forward to see where we go from here. But I don't know. I'd like to see more of our old a couple of them established Memphis guys come in. Let's see Dutch Mantell. We've advertised him on Monday nights, but he hasn't really been on TV, or a Buddy Landell or somebody like that fun pop back up here before long. But I haven't cheated and looked ahead to really know. I only know of one guy that's coming in that I looked ahead to just because I saw the headline of one of the shows. And I don't know. It's fun. It's going to be fun to see him in the early stages of his career, but he's not the lunatic that he was in the later stages of his career. So I'm not expecting anything too wild and exciting to go on, but it is just kind of cool to see this particular guy in Memphis specifically. So looking forward to that. So before we wrap it up, we had some fun reaction to our new little game we played last week. where, let's find him here, our old pal Dave. He was bummed out last week, and we didn't know why. And eventually we figured out why. And so this week he's sitting there, he's bummed out. What's got him bummed out? Oh my goodness, look at that. It's boy Tony, who's oddly proportioned here. But I mean, that would bum you out, right? I mean, if that was standing on the table next to you, that's kind of upsetting, right? Yeah.
Doing a table dance.
He's so not amused. Look at Dave's face. He's like, what the fuck is this?
Anytime
Kind of like I imagine Dave Brown's face if somebody showed him a clip of this.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if they showed him a clip from last week's show, like us standing there, next to him, or whatever else popped up. I'm sure he wasn't amused by any of that either. So
yeah, he probably don't like this segment.
I bet he don't. I bet it bums him out for real. So anyway, that's this week's segment of what's bumming Dave out, but what didn't bum Dave out. I'll tell you. Here's let's go back and take a look at. He's happy there and there.
The rock eyebrow.
He's hamming it up big time there. He's having a good time. So that's it. Everybody check out P3 Radio. What kind of fun did you guys get up to this week?
I'm a little I feel a little disappointed in myself on some of the things we talked about, like some of the videos we watched and stuff, specifically this crippled Frenchman in the woods in a wheelchair. I don't know how he got there, but he's doing a rap video. We kind of critique it.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
Also talked about government food and grapefruits. So
all I can say is, based off the past episodes that I've heard, for Josh to lead with "I'm disappointed in myself for how I reacted," I'm sold. I've got to see what in the hell you could have said that has disappointed yourself more than some of the things you said in the past. That had to have disappointed somebody. I don't know if it disappointed yourself, but I mean, if a family member heard, and I know Richard, a lot of times you can tell is a bit taken aback by some of it. So, yeah, folks, if you think we have some fun here, and if you think we say some outlandish stuff here from time to time, check out P3 Radio. These guys have a lot of fun over there, and it's something besides wrestling. So if you got enough wrestling in your life and you just want to have a laugh that ain't necessarily wrestling related, it's not to say they don't throw some wrestling in there from time to time, but you guys are just kind of all over the place. If it's something that interests you, you guys talk about it, right?
Pretty much. I mean, we've had other people tell us in the past it's kind of like just sitting down with an old friend and just shooting the breeze, and we kind of have computer tabs, essentially stories and things we think funny or shocking or whatever pulled up to kind of steer the ship if it gets a little stale at what we're talking about. But generally we'll shoot the breeze for a few minutes and then we'll get into the computer tabs and critiquing them and whatnot. But yeah, we have a great time.
One would say I might even shoot the shiznit, huh?
I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to steal that lingo,
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
But yeah, you could say that.
We won't say that because we don't want you to get a cease and desist from anyone who might be listening right now. But I just thought maybe that's one way to describe it. Richard, anything you want to close us on?
Oh, no, man. It's been fun. I'm going to be out next week on assignment. That's what they say, on vacation. Just gonna recharge my batteries a little bit, but
we'll make up some horse shit on why you're not here. We'll say you're sick, like you were here. Luckily, you got that cleared up before we started the show that day. But you were feeling pretty rough when you first got on that day.
Do we have time for Josh to pal drive me on the on the floor to put me out for next week?
Well, no, then you just have to come back next week with a towel around your neck. Let me tell you something, Josh, you son of a bitch.
Oh no, you gotta talk kind of like this because your neck was messed up.
That's true. Like Sherry, they've compressed both your vertebrae and your voice box apparently, and
it's all in there. It's all in there. Got
Yes,
crunched
next
up.
week, be forewarned. We probably shouldn't have gave him a heads up because now, Josh, nobody's going to tune in because Richard's not going to be here, and then
Yeah,
they're not going to hear from me at
Mama's
all.
not going to be there, so
Right, well, we're
I'm
not going to
out.
listen to the other two guys. Fuck that.
You might have an increase in viewership.
But yeah, next week join me and Josh as we will be here persevering without our buddy Richard. But should be a fun show. I don't know. I haven't looked ahead to see what's happening, but I'm sure Brian Christopher will have plenty to say about his match with the Undertaker. So that should be fun. So join us again next week for another episode of the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Hey, folks, before we get out of here, I'd just like to take a moment to tell you we appreciate you checking out the podcast. And if you would, do us a favor, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening to this right now, wherever you're watching it. If you'll just take a moment to either subscribe, to rate, and review, let us know what you think. We hope you're liking it. But even if you're not, let us know what you would like to see changed, and we will take that in consideration as we move forward. So we really appreciate any feedback we can get. Also, we just want to say how proud we are to be a part of the WrestleCopia brand of wrestling podcast. Ray Russell brings you something for everyone over at WrestleCopia.com. Check out all the great wrestling podcasts available over there right now. And for all things related to the Retro Wrestling Review podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com and you can find links to everything we have there, our Facebook, our Twitter/X, our TikTok, our Instagram, our merch store. That's right. We've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got phone cases, we've got all kinds of great stuff. And it's all right there at our store. And you can find a link to it at USWApodcast.com. There's a link to the YouTube channel we're associated with, the Retro Wrestling Archive. You can find all that there. And if you have questions for us, if you saw something on the show that you have a question about or a comment about, if you've got some info to answer a question we have, or you got a question you want us to read on the air, if you want to work out an ad swap, if you want to have any kind of communication with us, you can go and send an email to USWApodcast@outlook.com, and I will get back to you just as quickly as humanly possible. And if you're a fan of Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert, and if you've heard it, I know you are, check out DougGilbertPodcast.com for all things related to Doug's podcast. You can find links to our Facebook page for the show, our Twitter. You can find links to Doug's social media, his Twitter, his Facebook. All that's available there, plus a link to the YouTube channel. And if you have a question for Doug you would like for me to ask him on the air, you can send that question to DougGilbertPodcast@outlook.com, and we will get it added, and it will get answered in a future episode just as quickly as we can work it in. So we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you here next week for more